Good day everyone. My name is Arman Monserrat, BSHM2C. Our report entitled Planning the Service Delivery System. My topic is all about service delivery system. First is planning the system. Any good delivery system begins with careful planning. Careful analysis and detailing of every step in the entire service delivery process will make the difference between having it mostly right and reaching the level of excellence that very best service organizations deliver. Include all aspects of the service experience is service product, service setting, service delivery. To have a smooth work process, these are some of the things to be considered: developing a service product that meet guest need, well-trained staff, motivated and enthusiastic employees. Next is service standards. Service standards should be established early in the planning process. They are the company expectation for how the different aspects of the service experience should be delivered every time to every guest. And as is true when setting individual goals, the criteria of service standard should be SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, and time-bound. A special of type of service standards are those set by industry association or other agency that establish certification, accreditation, and recognition standards. Service standards need to be established in the planning stage before the guest is present. As well discussed in subsequent chapters, they also need to be checked when the guest is present to be sure they are being met, and after the guest leaves to determine the degree to which every part of the service experience was delivered in the way it was planned. Monitoring the service experience. Monitoring the experience through measurement as the experience service in order to establish and run successful business. The quality of customer service experience must be maintained, monitored, and constantly improved. In order to improve the service experience, the company must focus on monitoring and analyzing, which help to determine what is wrong with the current system in the place and what are the key areas which need to be revamped. Monitoring is not simplifying observing but includes crucial experts analyzing by comparing different numbers, taking into account both quantitative and qualitative data. In today's competitive environment, companies cannot keep repeating the same mistake and survive. Monitoring helps to identify and shortcoming and gives an opportunity to amend and weaknesses in the system. Assessing the experience and improving the system. After the planning the system and monitoring the experience through measurement comes the last step, assessment and improvement. Collecting and analyzing information about what has actually occurred drives system improvements. Once the plan is clearly laid out and the result of implementing the plan adequately measured to yield insight into how well the system operating. Both management and employees have the information needed to redesign the system and fix the problem to yield continuing improvement in the guest experience. Assessing the experience to improve the system, sales and revenue reports, and market shares capacity utilization are included. The overall health of the business is a good indicator or whether or not guest service quality is where it should be. If the business is losing money, market shares, capacity use, and so forth, these measures may indicate problems with the service product, setting, or delivery system. To assessing experience and improving the system, we need collecting and analyzing information, map the current process, analyze the current process, redesign the process, test the process, communicate the change, implement the new process, monitor results, and optimize. The blurred lines. This table shows the lines between the different phases of service delivery. This figure helps us to organize across the following chapters what we know about managing a service delivery system, so as to provide exceptional experience. Each stage of production and delivery system is clearly distinct. The border between the phases of service delivery represent overlapping areas are not distinct. As noted above, planning for the service experience begins even before the guest walks through the door. The part of the planning involves preparing for the inevitable customer waits, represented by the upper gray. The customer perceives the waits as part of the service experience, and if it is mishandled for too long, then the guest may feel that overall, the entire service experience was disappointing. Another blurred lines represented by the lower gray represent service recovery of the correction of errors. They can be corrected either during the service or after the service. The self-healing system. All service organizations seek to deliver the customer experience they plan. No organization is perfect, though, and so the best of them plan for inevitable failures, since the experience exists in the midst of customers who individually determine its quality and value service. Organization must not only plan the service delivery system thoroughly but create ways for it to heal when it breaks. Any delivery system that relies heavily on employees for its success will need to include the means for those employees to find and fix the problem that arise. A self-healing system allows employees to override the delivery system and fix customer problems when they occur and ensure that the system designers improve it to prevent from failing again in the same way. The employees in a self-healing system are also responsible for telling management whether the system has failed so that together they can fix it. Next is the cycles goes on. The cycle of planning, monitoring, and assessing improving should never stop. The service plans lays out what you think your service delivery system should do for the guest. The control measures tell you if you what your plan in the fact happening, and the commitment to improvement focuses everyone's attention on analyzing the data collected to fix and identify problems and move toward flawless to guest experience. The measures should also trigger recognition of exception variation from the plan, in addition to including ways to measure how well the service is being rendered at every step of the delivery process. A good plan must also include ways to measure how the overall plan is succeeding. Cycle goes on should identify the problem, issue you seek to service delivery. Set SMART goals and objectives. Identify and collaborate with key guests. Design activities to achieve goal cycle plan. Planning techniques. Planning techniques focus on constructing or diagramming a thoroughly detailed step-by-step description of what service delivery process involve the same standards that must be met. Planning always starts the guest and frequently begins with the moment when the guest becomes aware of the organization's ability to satisfy some need. The guest expectation begin to build from the moment long before the guest ever arrives to your front door. Since we know that the guests expect from the basis criterion from determining how well the experience satisfies the guest, understanding those expectations becomes the first step in planning for the providing any guest experience. After the plan is devised, managers can also use the techniques to focus on any part that guest feedback indicates might be a problem area. If efforts and care devoted to plan, failure should be minimized. Lastly is blueprinting. The most commonly discussed type of service diagramming is blueprinting. The entire service delivery process and its sub-process are described in blueprinting format, as if one were building a house and needed a plan of what went where. In effect, a good blueprinting defines every component, parts, and activity, not just the delivery system, but the entire guest experience from the moment when the guest sees the front door or greeting sign to the time that the guest part and move out of the site. A typical blueprint has eight parts. First is physical evidence, the tangible physical parts of the service experience that can impact customer assessment of quality and value. Second, customer action, the action of behavior of customer which derive the creation of a blueprint. third is on-stage visible contact employee actions. Things that customer contact employees do as part of the face-to-face encounter and which customer sees.
Good day, I'm Mark Angelo Montaño. Today, I will be discussing about blueprinting universal service map, fishbone analysis, and critical path method. Next is blueprinting prepares detailed plan for all the one intends to do before implementing and of the work. The blueprint should attach the times to the activities and process involved in providing the service and the time for the entire guest experience. The, the entire
Hi everyone, my name is Isaac Monteo from DSHM2C. The steps in the PERT or CPM. Process 1. Identifying the activities that must be done to complete the project. Step number 2. Determining the sequence of activity. Step number 3. Estimating how long each activity will take. Step number 4. Creating and diagramming the network of activities. Step number 5. Finding a critical path. Big Part CPM can be used for any event, process, or experience that has a defined beginning and end to describe and detail the sequence of activities that must occur to complete all steps on schedule. Since the activities of hospitality organization are often sequences or process with a beginning and the end, from cooking and serving a medical to cleaning and preparing a room from the next day guest to the entire guest experience itself. There are many possible application of PERT CPM to service the situation. The potential disadvantage. The PERT or CPM process assumes that the activities leading to a project completion are independent and can be clearly defined. That is not always the case. Also, the process depends on the accuracy of the time estimate, since time estimates are made by fallible human beings. They may be incorrect, and it does not make many incorrect time estimates to throw off an entire project. Simulation. A simulation is an initiation of the real thing. It may be doodled on a piece of paper with a pencil, or it may be done on a computer. Some simulations are big, like a computerized simulation of Epcot, and some are small, like a role-playing exercise, a company training section, and some simulation can be consist professional actors simulating the guest experience. Some the Aussie restaurant. Here is a specific example of how the Epcot simulation led to a surprising discovery in the early days of the park. Construction simulation runs were done to predict how guests would use Aussie restaurant, a large fast food being built on an island in the lake between the future World Attraction section of the park and the World Showcase section. Epcot. Walt Disney World Resort used a computerized simulation model of Epcot during the planning and design of the park. Different patterns of guest behaviors were modeled to make a decision about park capacity, and where individually attraction, restroom, food service facilities, and retail store should be located after the park open. Refinement and adjustment of the simulation model continue. The Aussie restaurant. Here is a specific example of how the Epcot simulation led to a surprising discovery in the early days of the park. Construction simulation runs were done to predict how guests would use Odyssey restaurant, a large fast food being built on an island in the lake between the future World Attraction section of the park and the Showcase section. World Showcase attraction. Unfortunately, there was not enough time to use the results of the simulation and relocate. Odyssey restaurant, it is open even through a bridge was constructed to make Odyssey restaurant. Odyssey more accessibility to few guests use it exactly as the simulation had predicted. Computer simulations for all. Not every organizations will have the volume of customer to justify or pay of the creation of a full scale computer model to study the service delivery system in a detail, not less with increasing availability of computing power and smaller, more and uses friendly software package even rat restaurant. Already available to small services organization is a computer program called a general system. Purpose system similar GPSS, which organization can use to stimulate their delivery system even more widely available. In Microsoft Excel program which can be used to create some types of simulation and many simulation. Thank you.
To prevent problems, demand forecasting, training, and quality teams. Demand forecasting is a combination of two words. The first one is demand and another is forecasting. Demand means outside the requirements of a product or service. In general, forecasting means making an estimation in a present for future occurring event. So it means estimation of an expected forecast of customer demand to prevent any problem like malugi yung business. At least if nag-demand forecasting tayo, alam na natin yung pinakamagiging demand ng customer natin. Training. Training is an action of teaching someone to an specific skills or type of behavior. Alam mo naman natin lahat before we hired someone, they need to train to be qualified worker for specific job and prevent the problems. Quality team. The use of quality team is another preventive strategy. Recall how the Ritz-Carlton employees solved their service delivery system problem of late room service breakfast and how quality teams at the Quick Connect Airlines used to fishbone analysis to solve the departure delays. Both show values letting the people directly involved in the service experience get together to identify service and deliver system problem and recommend solution to prevent their recurrence. Quite often, no one is in a better position to foresee and prevent problems than the people who have already experienced a wide range of problems and seen first-hand guess frustration with those problems. Pokayo. Pokayok roughly means avoid unexpected surprises or avoid blunders in Japanese. In English, a pokayok is sometimes referred to a mistake proof or foolproof. Pokayok basically involves inspection of any of the system for possible failure points and then finding or developing simple means to prevent or immediately detect and correct mistake at those points. Types of inspections. In the service industry, there would be source inspections in which potential mistakes are located at their source and fixed before they can get into a delivery system. Self-inspections in which people check their own work and successive inspections in which the person next to service delivery system check the quality and accuracy of a previous person's work. Mistake can occur and pokayo can be used in all these inspection types. An example of source inspection is the chip monitoring and prepared foods such as salad, bone chicken, or whatever must assemble in advance to rush hour. To ensure the sufficient quantities of an items, an example of self-inspection is like cook personal Personnel comparing the order he has prepared against a picture of what the food display should look like before putting into a service counter. An example of successive inspection is a food server in a restaurant checking the food or order on a counter before taking it out the kitchen. Obviously, the closer the source that errors or potential errors can be detected, the better. Poka-yoke system can be divided in three categories: contact method, fixed value method, motion step method. Contact method in which sensing device detect abnormalities in product or in shape or dimension by whatever or not contact is made between the product and the sensing device are called contact method. Fixed values method. With this method, abnormalities are detected by checking for the specified number of motion in case where operation must be repaired a predetermined number of times. Motion step method. These are methods in which abnormalities are detected by checking for errors in standard motions in cases when operation must be carried out with the predetermined motions. This extremely effective method have wide range of application and possibility of their use should by all means and examine when Poka-yoke setting function are considered. Cross-functional project and matrix organizations. Sometimes the problem in delivering a service experience can be traced back to design or structure of the organization itself. A functionally organized hotel, for an example, may not consistently provide the service experience defined by its mission. Its individual departments focus on their own individual goals and objective rather than on guest satisfaction across the entire experience. Guest doesn't care about the room division manager's goals and challenges or the food and beverage manager problems and concern. Guests care about the quality and value of an entire experience they are paying for. In the individual organization components need to effectively connected in the way that unite them to focus everyone on ensuring guest satisfactions. The Ritz-Carlton Horst Schul's talk on developing a cross-functional organizational solution to recognize the fixed system issue while explaining how the Ritz-Carlton hotels achieved the Malcolm Bridge Quality Award. The Ritz-Carlton had identified 18 important guest satisfaction criteria using questionnaires. The Ritz-Carlton then employed the process manager in charge of reducing work cycle and fixing problem in each hotel. The system that distributed by 18 keys by 15% resulting in pleased customers. Because the keys were regarded to be so crucial, this particular person was engaged to make that someone was constantly worried about them, regardless of which functional unit were in the charge of various key, by allowing the process manager to work across functional areas to make sure that someone was focused, by allowing the process manager to work across all functional areas to ensure that someone was focused on hotel guests and what satisfied them. The Ritz-Carlton was able to avoid the potential restriction of the function orientation that naturally arise in the department. Advantages and disadvantages of cross-functional project matrix structures. To ensure the maintaining the same focus on guest satisfaction as the Ritz-Carlton or other hotels or other hospitality organization use project teams, matrix structure, and the other cross-functional structures because these structures generally involve people working under more than one limit authority. Some traditional managers who believe that strict lines of authority are important have problems working with the cross-functional structures. On the other hand, crossing functional areas and getting everyone focused on the guest can offer some important benefits. Table 10 to 4 compares the advantage and disadvantage of these organization structures. Boss, here is the bottom line on organizational design. used whenever organizational designs enable every unit and every person to focus on a guest needs, wants, and expectations. The Ritz-Carlton know this and Disney know this. While organization chart may show functional divisions and different people responsible for different areas like maintenance, front office, housekeeping, everyone in this excellent hospitality organization knows that their real boss is the guest and their real organizational function is the ensuring that their guest experience meet or exceed their guest expectations.
Planning the service delivery system. Check system first. Hall Seashore, former chef operating officer of the Ritz-Carlton Hotels, like to tell the story of how one hotel manager solved the problems of delays in serving room service breakfast. After several guests complained to the manager about their breakfast being brought to the rooms both slow and cold, the manager knew he had to investigate. The traditional managerial solution to the problem would have been to call in the loudly criticize the offending room service manager for technical incompetence and poor supervisory skills. The then properly disciplined manager would return to the kitchen, gather the room service staff around, and yell at them all then. The manager organized a team of room service people and asked them to study the problem, find out why the meals were not getting to guests with a reasonable time, and suggest ways to solve whatever problems they found. They studied the problem a great length and found out the cause what then an availability of service elaborators needed by the room service people to get the meals quickly to their guests. They studied why the elevators were unavailable and even had a room service employee spend an entire morning in the elevators with a stopwatch to see where the elevators were, what they were being used for, and why they were unavailable when the room service people needed them. Short-sheeted. What the team found astonished Cecil and the manager. The whole problem could be traced to a faulty management decision about how many bed sheets each floor was allowed to stock for the housekeepers. The decision has left some floors with too few sheets, and the housekeepers were using the elevators to hunt for extra sheets to finish cleaning the rooms on their floors. Because a manager trying to save the cost of the sheets had stuck too few, the rest of the system disrupted. The cost saving moved the road of the cost of room service housekeeping labor. Trying to solve a problem in one part of the service delivery system created problems for another part. The total impact was to drive up cost and cause guest dissatisfaction. Lesson learned. What manager would ever have thought that the late breakfast problems would be solved by adding more bedsheets to the available supply on each floor? Cecil's draw 3 lessons from his story. First, managers are not smart enough or don't have enough time to information to prevent or solve all the problems by themselves. These managers rely on the traditional theory that if you correct the problems, you correct the problems. Second, employee may have a better chance to finding the root causes of a problem than the manager. Simply putting out one small fire without thinking about the system can cause big problems elsewhere. Designing and checking. We have said all along the service delivery system includes all aspects of the service experiences, service product, service setting, and service delivery. Hospitality manager need to think about the entire process that delivers the service to the guest and about the system that are needed to make the process work flawlessly. Developing a service product that meets guests' needs and having well-trained, motivated, enthusiastic employees using right information, equipment, and tools to deliver the product to guests within a well-designed service environment are all necessary, but these are not insufficient. The key component of flawless service experience is making sure that the entire service delivery system, the process by which the service delivery to the guest is designed to effectively integrates to many elements of the experience to make it happen in the way that the customers aspects. Too many times, hospitality managers assume that the employee has made an error when it really the fault lies in a bad system, which makes it difficult, it's not impossible, for employee to deliver the service experience with excellence that the organization. Talk with frontline servicers at hotels, restaurants, or any hospitality organization. The goal? Fail no guest, delight every guest. To achieve the companion goals of failing no guest and delighting every guest, successfully planning the entire guest experience and focusing on an effective delivery system are critical. While we don't want to downplay the contributions or production management techniques and the solution that industrial engineers have found problems in a manufacturing organizations. These tools cannot guarantee the success of any hospitality organization service delivery system because the guest is always an ultimate judge of the quantity and the value of guest experience. Service delivery system designers must ensure that they design the experiences from the guest point of view and their own. Some guiding principles. Study your customers in minute detail. Build a service delivery chapter 10. Planning the service delivery system 33 system that will provide the experience they expect from your organization. Monitor that system closely. Create accurate, clearly warning measures of each possible failure point. Engage everyone in the organization in watching those measures and follow up on everything that does not meet your guest expectation for whatever reason. If failures occur repeatedly or certain points, change the system design. Although excellent hospitality organizations do their best to keep service failures from happening by keeping a careful eye on all the places where the system might fail, they know that the failures are inevitable. Table 10.1. Planning the delivery system, monitoring the service experience, and assessing the experience to improve the system. Phase 1. When, what, who, how. Phase 1. Planning the service delivery system. Phase 2. Monitoring the service experience. Phase 3. Assessing the experience to improve the system. When? Before the guest arrives and while the guest is waiting for the service experience. During the guest experience, after the guest experience. What? Experience expected, experience realized, experience remembrance. Who? Target customer, actual customers, past, current, and potential future customer. How? Setting service standards, blueprinting, universal service map, fishbone analysis, PERT, CPM, simulations, forecasting, demand, designing waste, QCs, training quality terms, POCAYOKs, cross-functional organization design, applying service standard and job performance standards, managerial observation, employee observation, meeting terms, service guarantees, personal interview and encounters with guests, guest assessment, comment cards, and